Hello to all of you wonderful moms out there. This is episode 100 of the Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life. I'm your host, Anoki Kapasi, and I'm here to empower you with life planning tools so you can turn your ideal life into your real life. And yes, you heard that right. We have been together for 100 episodes. This show has been my main platform to spread my message for my Solve for Mom vision, which is that I envision a world where life crafting is a routine part of motherhood. Well, this means that I promote the idea that living a balanced life as a mom with ambitious pursuits is totally possible. And not only is it possible, but you actually have a say in designing that life for yourself. Unfortunately, there's this popular myth that's spreading the opposite message. And this is the lie that work-life balance is impossible. It's not just inexperienced professionals that are circulating this myth. It's also influential women. This is the myth that keeps so many ambitious moms feeling stuck, feeling overloaded and guilty, lost and disconnected from themselves. You see, I have my strong opinions on how to live a balanced life. And you know, my solution is life planning. That's what I talk about all the time on the show. But because my take contradicts what others believe, I sort of thought that what I was saying was really controversial. Because everywhere I go, even just the other day on LinkedIn, I saw another post that said, work-life balance is a myth. Now, everyone is entitled to their opinions, but I don't really appreciate messages that are fear-mongering. I prefer messages that are solutions-based, ones that empower you. And I hope that's what I've been doing over the last 100 episodes on the show. As I was preparing for today's episode, I started to scroll back and just scan all of the episode titles that I had to see what I could do to really commemorate this big milestone. And what I realized is that over the past year, this show has really included many conversations with brilliant, high-achieving women. And over again, we've actually debunked the popular myth about work-life balance not being possible. What I've experienced in my own life, what I've learned from the guests on this show, and based on what women that I coach have told me after they put their life plans into action. I mean, seriously, I just spoke to a client yesterday who was gushing all about how balanced her life is now after she coached with me and built out her life plan through my designed life method. From talking to all of these women, I realized that there is a more important consensus on work-life balance that has formed. And it really knocks this lie that balance is not possible squarely between the eyes. I mean, it totally obliterates it. That's why in this 100th episode, I'm going to distill the most useful insights on living a balanced life that I have obtained through a year of interviews on my show. And I'm going to offer you a simple path that you can use today to create your version of balance. It's going to be a short, clear, and very doable solution. So let's dive in. Are you looking for a way to blend success and motherhood without losing sight of who you are? I get it. I've been there too. Hi, I'm Anoki, a PhD researcher, business owner, and homeschooling mom of 2 boys. As your life coach, I help moms like you create a life you love at home and at work. If you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed, overscheduled, and overlooked, and want a clear roadmap to a balanced life, a meaningful career, and finally feeling like yourself again while being the awesome mama that you are, you're in the right place. In this journey to create the life you truly desire, it's time to rediscover your dreams and achieve your ambitious mom life. If you enjoy the Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life podcast, please take a moment to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps more ambitious moms decide whether this is the show for them. Your feedback not only improves the show, but also builds our supportive community of purpose-driven mamas. One listener shared, "This show is relatable, motivational, and a must-listen for moms out there looking for work-life balance." Thank you so much, Global Psych. That's exactly what I hope to hear every time I put out an episode. I love that my content is resonating with you. And so, anytime you feel inspired, please do share it with a friend or anyone else that you think could really benefit from this. All right, let's get on with our show. I remember a few years ago, I sort of hit a personal tipping point. There was this really small moment, but it kind of hit me really hard and woke me up a bit. At that point in my life, things were seemingly going well. I feel like from the outside, if you looked in, my life looked really successful, actually. But for me, internally, what I was experiencing was just that from week to week, things were just a big blur. I was constantly context switching throughout my day, from going from client works to working in naps for the kids and then emailing people and pinning down logistics at even 11 p.m. at night, and just going through 1,000 big and small decisions throughout the day. And none of those decisions were done with intentionality. I didn't really feel in control of those decisions. I was just making them because I had to, but not necessarily with a strategic lens or a sense of empowerment anytime I made those decisions. So what happened at this one point was I had just gotten my younger son, who was a baby at the time, down for a nap. And I remember I just wanted to get as much work done. I was like, great, I have about an hour and a half to get a lot of work done, quote unquote, to catch up on my work. And then my older son came up to me and asked if I could play battle with him. And he, at the time, loved playing with these imaginary lightsabers and things like that. And then we would just play in these fake battle scenes. So when he asked me to play, I didn't even look up. I was just like, I need a minute. And I got so sucked in and I stopped paying attention to him. Well, about 45 minutes later, when I looked up, he had clearly moved on. But when I went to check to see what he was doing, he was on an iPad. And for some reason, that really stung. I felt so misaligned, so unbalanced, and just feeling like I didn't have my priorities straight. I felt overloaded and overwhelmed and overcome with guilt. So that was just one more red flag, along with a couple of others, when I decided to start changing things, little things at first, like incorporating some time for self-care or building in more family traditions, which I really love doing now. But then I started moving on to some bigger changes, like shifting my roles in my job or changing my work arrangement and schedule. And eventually, I actually made a complete career change in order to homeschool my kids. So while it was a lot of trial and error, I eventually systemized and improved my approach to life planning over, several years of doing it myself and helping others out. That is what is now my Designed Life Method, which is my one-on-one coaching program where I empower high-achieving moms who have technical backgrounds to balance their ambitions with motherhood. In case you're interested, I do talk a lot more about my journey in episode 50, so I'm going to link that in the show notes if you want to hear more about my personal journey to this point. The thing is that after I started life planning and transforming my life towards a more balanced lifestyle, I started to talk to people around me, at gatherings, at preschool pickups, and mom's night outs, and just text chains with my friends. And I heard similar feelings crop up over and over again. It was things like, I have so many things to do at home or at work. I have a limited time. I feel so much pressure to get everything done. I don't have any space for this, that, or the other. I even heard things like, I don't feel like myself anymore. I feel bad for wanting to do more than just care for my kids and my family. And I'm sure at some point you've said one or more of these things as well. That is when I realized that I wasn't alone, that this is actually a societal problem that so many moms are facing. And I think that this experience is exacerbated in high achievers and professionally trained women like you, highly trained, degreed, especially in science, technology, or research. There's just something about working for so many years to acquire your degree, to be deeply career focused, to get past the slavish hours that are demanded in science and tech jobs, and then to go from that to experiencing the life-changing transition of becoming a mom. Because at that point, your definition of success has also changed. And it's really disorienting because so many decisions were focused on that idea of success. But now you're standing on this foundation and it's starting to crumble down. And it's not like you just lose your footing. You're actually falling now into a hole. When I realized that other women were experiencing the same thing, and understandably, many of them threw their hands up in the air and just started proclaiming, well, work-life balance is a myth. Balance isn't possible, right? I understand why it's easy to say that. But it's also why I'm so passionate about empowering moms so that they can balance their ambitions and motherhood. Because that was me. I was in that hole. Life was so hard. I felt lost and I was exhausted from repeatedly pulling myself out of that hole using whatever the next trendy work-life balance hack was or productivity system. And then I would just fall right back down again because it wasn't sustainable. It was just a short-term Band-Aid. I wanted a solution that was lifelong, that evolves with me, that was clear and purpose-driven, that works with me and not against me, and that simplifies my life and not burdens it. So that is what life planning is. It is that ultimate work-life balance tool. Hearing people say that balance is not possible for moms really strikes a nerve for me, because I know it is possible. I know from working with other women, from what I've been able to do for myself, when I hear that lie, it just doesn't land well for me. So I started to build out a business that offers life planning, and that is my business, Solve for Mom. And as I said, this show has really been the antidote to this harmful lie, where I can reverse that and spread the positive message that moms can have a balanced life. They can balance their ambitions and motherhood. And I don't just spread that message, I also like to share how that is possible through life planning. So you know exactly how I feel about balanced living as a mom. But what do the experts say? Well, I've interviewed about a dozen high-achieving women over the past year, and these are experts in time management, health and fitness, relationships, business, aging, burnout. I even had a balance expert on. And so in these interviews, as you might know, I always ask them the same question at the end, which is, what does balance mean to you? And here's the consensus on what work-life balance really means. That balance is not a static 50-50 split or about equally proportioning your time over different areas of your life. And that probably this myth that balance isn't possible is in relation to that concept of having everything equally timed out in your life, or to have just this seesaw that is staying balanced and never moving. So what balance is not was really consistent across the board. And I wholly agree with that concept. There were also some common themes, though the specifics of it varied from person to person, as to how to create balance and what does balance look like. So one of the themes is that balance is about having a level of organization, clarity, and confidence in your life where you can be really intentional, where you have systems in place that allow you to show up fully in all of the roles that you take on, that get you out of reactive mode and to stop feeling trapped. These types of organizational systems allow you to have consistency and also go deep on whatever task or activity or way that you're spending your time in. Not to use these simple little hacks and tips, but to really find a system that allows it to be lasting balance. All of this is going to lead to very aligned decision-making and actions. The second concept is that balance to some degree requires physical health and well-being. There is this circular effect that being physically fit and being healthy is a kind of balance that then leads to living in a very balanced way. But I said it's circular because when you have a balanced life, it can lead to you experiencing more balance in your body physically. So the physical aspects of balance are things like working with your body, right? Having energy regulation through hormones and digestion, and working with the circadian rhythm. Having nervous system regulation where you can create this baseline that allows you to make clear decisions, to engage in personal growth. And of course, our brains and our mental wellness are very much a part of our bodies. And so we also try to put into practice habits that create sustainable stress relief. Because when you're stressed all the time, it's very hard to be or feel balanced. And then the third really big theme that emerged from all of these conversations is that balance demands clear boundaries. The experts I talked to said that boundaries are not selfish. This is a way for you to balance your energy, to protect it, and also the things that truly matter to you. And that without boundaries, you're going to enter burnout territory, which of course is a symptom when things are not balanced in your life. And these boundaries don't just apply to your personal life, but also to your career, where you have work-life balance based off of boundaries, but also using your core values, your purpose, and your priorities, and creating these parameters around your career so that you're pursuing work that is very aligned and therefore will be very meaningful to you. Now, let me tell you a little more about my take on balance, because it very much is in line with all of the conversations that I had with these experts. Right? Balance is not about having equilibrium necessarily. It's not about taking your whole life and putting it into this big pie and then fractioning it out into different pieces and spending equal amounts of time on everything. That is definitely a false impression. Balance is also not a personality trait. It's not about being a balanced person, although that is nice to have. But hello, we're all high achievers. We're high performers. So by definition, we have some extreme abilities and tendencies. Our ambitions come on really strongly. And that's not a bad thing, because with our strong ambitions comes a strong desire to help. We tend to be leaders. We tend to be in this top of the pyramid of sorts. And we also have the potential to create high impact. So I don't really want to talk about it in terms of being a balanced person where you have a muted effect in life. And of course, balance is not a static outcome. It's not that you're going to achieve quote unquote balance. It's not a one and done thing. You have to constantly work at it. That's for sure. Just because balance is not those things doesn't mean that balance altogether is unattainable. All right, so I just listed a bunch of things that balance is not. So what is balance? I believe that balance is an experience. You have to live it. That's why it's called living a balanced life. Balance is when you're living in your values, where you feel present at home and you feel effective at work, where you're making steady progress on your meaningful goals, and you're doing all of that without burnout. And that seems idyllic, but it totally is possible. So balance is not just one thing, as I just said. At different times of the day, different phases of your life, and different stages of development, balance is going to mean different things to you, and our body is going to adjust accordingly. To me, balance is a type of freedom. The ability to work when and how you want is a form of balance. When you're living a balanced life, you are not being sucked so fully into any one thing that you don't have time for other things that are important to you. Having a balanced life means that you have the choice to say yes or no to things. And that's why, based on all of those conversations I've had on the show and everything that I know about life planning, I want you to think of life planning as a system for living a balanced life. So yeah, living a balanced life as a mom who has ambitions is not a myth. It's not impossible. And that with the right tools, with the right mindset, with the right roadmap, you will have clarity on that North Star. You can be intentional about your time, your energy, your finances, your relationships, and all of the resources that you have in your life. And balance takes planning. What do I mean by that? With any resource in your life, especially your time and energy, you get to decide how much time. How much are you going to spend on that? What will you be doing? Who are you going to be doing it with? Why do you want to do those things? So life planning is your system to answering questions like that. And when you have answers to those types of questions, you can actually live your balanced life. So people have actually asked me, does it really matter what you call it, work-life balance, or that people aren't taking the time to actually define what they mean by balance? And I want to say yes, it's really super important, because if you don't take the time to say what you mean by balance, that when you say that balance isn't possible and you're not qualifying the part of balance that isn't possible, which is some sort of static equality or literal equal proportions of time in your day, well then that forces women to choose only one part of themselves. It takes away our agency as professionals, as moms, as leaders, as women, to have a say in how we want to live our lives. So this is what I mean to finally find balance, where you're meeting all of your family's needs, but you're also able to do the things for yourself without sacrificing your time with your kids, your career ambitions, your personal identity, and your health, because you're constantly serving others at your own expense. So if you're spending the day doing things at your own expense because life feels like this really long to-do list and you feel constantly overwhelmed, well, that's not the way to live as a high-achieving mom. We just heard what balance is and isn't. Balance is definitely not about being on 24/7 without any predictability or rhythms in your days. That's just going to lead you to living in survival mode. You're going to be second-guessing how to move forward on things, and even worse, you're going to completely stall and you're going to see another year pass by and your life has gone without you being able to pursue your dreams because you have this false notion that you can't do both. But if you're trying to escape that friction that you feel in your life, right? That tug of war, especially between motherhood and career or your ambitions, then I have the perfect program for you. That is my designed life method. And that's where you're going to go from being this overwhelmed home operator or an executive assistant managing the logistics for your entire family to becoming this very intentional architect of creating this balanced, ambitious life of yours. Now, I'm not saying that life can't be full with activity. I have busy seasons too, and it's okay to be busy, but only if it's your choice. You should have the choice of when and what you get to say yes and no to, and that's what I teach in my program. So how do we do this? Well, you need to have a life plan, which is a clear roadmap, and not having everything overwhelmed, taking over your brain and taking over your decision making. That is not how you're going to run your life and your career. So if you want me to help you create this balance to bring you systematically through it all, the steps are super simple. The first step is self-discovery. This is where I help you reconnect with yourself and get to know yourself again in motherhood. If you want to try to do this on your own, things like journaling, meditation, and trying out new hobbies are all really great for this. The next step is to build out a life plan. A life plan is what's going to empower you with a personalized roadmap so that you can align your time and energy with all of the things that matter to you. And you can finally prioritize your dreams without experiencing any guilt. But if you want to fast track the whole process, then all you have to do is click on the link in the show notes for a free alignment audit call. In that free call, I show you where you're misaligned, and it's going to give you really great insight into how life planning can help you. And like I said, this is completely free, so you really don't have anything to lose. So just go to the show notes and click on the link for that free call. And then the last step is to achieve. This is where you actually execute out all of the goals that we've taken the time to break down. And I just want you to know that whenever you are working on goals, I want you to think of it as a journey. You're going to start from having the right mindset to setting the right goals for you using your life plan to knowing what goal you're actually trying to achieve and then tracking your progress all along the way, both qualitatively and quantitatively. And of course, celebrating all of the wins along the way as well. So you have all of the steps to envision, plan, and take action on your big ideas. But we can talk about this in so much more detail once you book that free call. Just make sure that you make the time to go over and book that call today. Either way, I'm going to see you on the next episode of Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life. Thank you for being here for these amazing 100 episodes, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode of Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life. I hope today's episode will help you create time and freedom to pursue something you love to do. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and tell other purpose-driven mamas about it. Who knows? You might even make a new friend by sharing a tip. It's all free. By the way, it would be amazing to hear what you think about the show when you leave a review on Apple Podcasts. After all, my passion is to make this a great experience for you. I'll see you next week for another episode of Achieve Your Ambitious Mom Life with Anoki Kapasi.